Most men don't realize the exact moment they lose respect. It's not when they fail. It's not when they make a mistake. It happens in a much smaller moment, a comment, a tone, a subtle jab, disguised as nothing. And in that moment, they react, they explain, they defend, they try to correct what was said, and without realizing it, they've already lost. Because what if I told you the person who disrespected you wasn't trying to prove anything? They were testing something. Testing how easy it is to move you. And the second you react, you give them the answer. Here's the part most men never see. The loudest man in the room is not the strongest. He is the easiest to control because he reveals everything. But there is another kind of man. When he is disrespected, he doesn't react. He doesn't defend. He says nothing. 3 in silence, no music. And in that silence, the other person starts to break. But here's the part most people never understand. Silence is not one skill. It is a system. And if you use it incorrectly, it makes you look weak, ignored, irrelevant. So the question is not, should you stay silent? The question is, when does silence give you power? And when does it take it away? To answer that, we must deconstruct the psychology of the offender. We will move through 7 distinct levels of Stoic power. I. The law of the vacuum, reversing the pressure. 2. The death of the ego's defense, why explaining is losing. 3. The social filter, deplatforming the manipulator. IV. The weight of the unspoken, presence versus noise. V. The king's cloak, the armor of indifference. VI. The art of the controlled pause, the 3-second strike. 7. The final sovereignty, becoming the mountain. If you are over 40, you have spent decades leaking your energy. You have spent years trying to convince people of your value. Today, that leak stops. Let us begin with the first law. When someone disrespects you, whether it is a condescending remark in a board meeting or a subtle jab from a family member, they are throwing a hook. But here's what most people miss. The hook is not the insult. The hook is your reaction. Because without your reaction, the insult has nowhere to land. Think about that carefully. If no reaction comes, did the attack even succeed? Why do they do it? Because your reaction gives them information. It tells them where your buttons are. It tells them how much power they have over your internal state. When you scream back, you are telling them exactly where you are hurt. You are providing them with a roadmap to your mind. You are essentially handing them the keys to your castle and saying, "Here, this is how you destroy me." The Stoic does not bite. The Stoic creates a vacuum. Naked pause, no music. Nature abhors a vacuum. Think of the physics of a social interaction. When someone speaks, they expect an equal and opposite force. They expect resistance, they expect noise. But when you offer nothing, the physics break. And this is where most men panic. Because silence feels like losing. It feels like surrender. It feels like you're letting it happen. But what you don't see in that moment is this. Silence is not empty. It is loaded. Imagine the scene. A colleague makes a passive-aggressive comment about your performance in front of the group. The room goes quiet. Everyone expects you to defend yourself. They expect the emotional reaction. They expect explanation. But you offer nothing. You don't look away. You don't fidget. You don't rush. You look them directly in the eyes. Calm, steady, neutral. And you remain silent. In that silence, the offender begins to drown. They start filling the space. They stutter. They soften. I was only joking. They begin to correct themselves. Not because you fought back, but because your silence forced them to face themselves. This is the physics of the predator. A predator moves when the prey runs. But when the prey stands perfectly still, the predator hesitates. becomes uncertain. And once you understand this, you'll start noticing something strange. The people who used to test you stop trying, not because they respect you more, but because they can't read you anymore. You are not a dog that barks when a stone is thrown. You are the stone. Hard, unmoving, cold. Let them exhaust themselves against you. Why is it so hard to stay silent? Because of the ego. The ego is a fragile, screaming voice that demands to be seen as right. When someone insults you, the ego feels threatened. It whispers. If you don't respond, you look weak. If you don't explain, they'll believe it. But consider this. If I tell you the sky is green, do you argue? Do you pull out evidence? No, you ignore it, because you are certain of reality. Argument is the tool of the uncertain. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Most arguments are not about truth. They are about identity, about protecting how you are seen. When you feel that urge, that burning need to explain, that is not strength. It is dependence. Dependence on other people's perception. By choosing silence, you perform an act of ego death. You are saying, my worth is not up for discussion. You are removing yourself from the game entirely at 40. You should realize something. Most people are not listening. They are waiting for their turn to speak. So why give them your energy? When you stop defending yourself, you become untouchable. And here is the deeper question. If you stopped explaining yourself completely, who would still understand you and who would disappear? The Stoic trusts his character so deeply, he lets his life be the only explanation. Silence is not just a shield, it is a filter. It is a social algorithm that removes the noise and keeps the signal. In your life, there are people who thrive on drama. There are energy vampires who seek out the reactive, the emotional, and the easily provoked. They need your reaction to feel alive. They need the conflict to justify their own misery. They are like parasites that feed on the heat of your anger. When you master strategic silence, these people will begin to disappear. They will find you boring or arrogant. They will say you are hard to read. This is exactly what you want. You are creating a social environment where only those who respect your boundaries can survive. Manipulators hate silence. They use words as lures, trying to find a crack in your armor. They poke and prod, looking for a reaction they can use against you. When they find nothing but a wall of stoic calm, they will move on to an easier target. You are effectively deplatforming their toxicity. Think about the cost of being too nice. For years, you have been the one to smooth things over. You have been the one to apologize when you didn't do anything wrong, just to keep the peace. You have spent hours in your head rehearsing what you should have said. All that mental energy is gone, wasted on people who wouldn't spend a second thinking about your well-being. Strategic silence reclaims that energy. It acts as a gatekeeper for your soul. It ensures that only those who speak with intention, respect, and intelligence are allowed into your inner circle. By saying nothing, you are saying everything about who is allowed in your presence. The loud and the toxic will naturally drift away from a man they cannot move. They want a puppet. They don't want a mountain. There is a profound mystery in the man who says little. We call this the gravity of presence. In a world where everyone is broadcasting their every thought, where every minor grievance is a social media post, the man who remains silent becomes an enigma. He becomes a center of gravity in a room full of floating debris. His words begin to carry weight. When he finally speaks, the room goes thin. People lean in. They listen with an intensity that they never offer to the loud talker. This is the pivotal, authoritative point. Consider the difference between a pebble and a boulder. A pebble makes a lot of noise when it hits the water, but it's easily moved. A boulder makes a deep, resonant sound, and it stays exactly where it landed. In your workplace or your social circle, your silence creates a psychological pressure. People will naturally try to figure you out. They will assume you know more than you do. They will assume you are analyzing them. And because they are often insecure, they will project their own fears onto your silence. If you are disrespected and you remain silent, you are draped in a specific kind of power. You are communicating that you are the frame of the interaction. The other person is acting within your silence. You are the one setting the temperature. A king does not need to shout to be heard. In fact, the more powerful the man, the less he needs to use his voice. Every word spoken is a piece of your power given away to the world. A man who talks too much is a man who is leaking his self into the atmosphere. Strategic silence keeps you whole. It keeps your power concentrated. When you do choose to speak, after minutes or hours of silence, your words will hit like a hammer on an anvil. They will be undeniable. To wear the king's cloak is to understand that your energy is finite. This is the armor of indifference. Every time you engage in a petty argument, you are spending a currency you can never earn back: time. At our age, we should know that our time is our most precious asset. To spend it trying to convince a fool that they are wrong is a form of spiritual debt. Stoicism teaches us the dichotomy of control. Other people's opinions are firmly outside of our control. Therefore, to spend energy trying to change them is not just futile, it is a form of madness. It is like trying to yell at the rain to make it stop. Imagine you are wearing a cloak of heavy, dark velvet. It is the cloak of your own sovereignty. When insults are thrown, they simply slide off the fabric. They never reach your skin. They never enter your blood. When you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you are telling the offender, "Your arrow did not reach me. I am so far above your reach that your malice didn't even register as a threat." Think about the quiet weight of responsibility you carry as a father, a leader, or a provider. That weight is your strength. It is the anchor that keeps you steady while others are blown about by the winds of fashion and opinion. This isn't about holding it in. Suppression is not stoicism. Suppression is when you are angry but too afraid to speak. Indifference is when you aren't even angry, because the person speaking is so insignificant to your life that their words have no more impact than the buzzing of a fly. The cloak is not a wall, it is a perspective. It is the realization that you are the master of your own mental domain. If you allow someone to make you angry, you have handed them the remote control to your life. Keep the remote. Wear the cloak. Stay silent. Now, we move from the philosophy to the 3-second strike. This is the controlled pause. This is the most practical tool in the Stoic toolkit. Most men react in less than half a second. They hear an insult, and the defense is out of their mouth before they've even processed the words. They are on autopilot. The Stoic disconnects the autopilot. In any interaction, there is a rhythm. Someone speaks, you respond. It is a social contract. But what happens if they hit the ball over the net and you just watch it bounce? The contract is broken. The other person is left standing in the social debris of their own words. In your next confrontation, especially one where someone is trying to belittle you, I want you to use the 3-second rule. When they finish their sentence, wait, 1, 2, 3. During these 3 seconds, maintain eye contact. Breathe. Do not scowl. Do not smile. Just look at them. This pause is a pattern interrupt. It forces the other person to sit with the echo of their own disrespect. Often you will see them crumble. They will start to backtrack. They will say, "Look, I didn't mean it like that." Or, "Anyway, it's not a big deal." They are retreating because your silence is an interrogation. And when you finally do speak, do not defend yourself. Ask a surgical question. Is that really how you want to spend your time, making comments like that? Or simply, why did you think that was appropriate? By using the pause and then a question, you remain the judge. They remain the defendant. You have not lowered yourself to their level of mudslinging. You have stayed on the high ground, looking down at the conflict. The controlled pause is how you turn a reactive moment into an authoritative one. It is the difference between a man who is triggered and a man who is choosing. We have reached the summit. The final sovereignty. This is the point where silence is no longer a tactic or a weapon. It is simply the environment you live in. You have reached a level of internal maturity where you no longer need the world to validate you. You are the mountain. The mountain does not care if the wind blows. It does not care if the clouds cover its peak. It does not care if tourists climb it or if people ignore it. It just is. It remains. The quiet weight you once carried, the weight of needing to be liked, the weight of needing to prove your worth, has been lifted. You have replaced it with the aggressive stoicism of a man who has reclaimed his fire. You understand that silence is the ultimate power because it is the ultimate freedom. It is the freedom from the need to please. It is the freedom from the debt of explanation. When you reach final sovereignty, you don't stay silent to win the argument. You stay silent because the argument is beneath you. You are focused on your purpose. You are focused on your legacy. You are focused on the work that actually matters. If you have stayed with me for this entire 25-minute masterclass, you are not like most people. You are looking for something deeper. You are looking for a way to navigate this modern, noisy world with the dignity of an ancient king. Casual, cinematic gold rim lighting intensifies. Text appears. Be silent. Be dangerous. Subscribe to this channel. We don't do safe philosophy here. We do aggressive stoicism. We reclaim the respect that was lost when we started talking too much. Leave a comment with the Roman numeral 7 if you have committed to this path of sovereignty. It tells me who the real students are. Let the world shout. Let them bark. Let them scramble for attention like children in a playground. You will stay silent. And in that silence, you will win. Go forth. Be dangerous.